Well, welcome back to another episode of the Financially Free Journey podcast, and I'm your host, Courtney Dyer. And this podcast aims to dispel the seemingly complex topic of personal finances, money management, debt, savings, investing, retirement, and all things small business. Welcome. If you're new here, you are in for a real treat. We are going to be talking about some of the things that you can do. In fact, the top 10 things you can do to be more financially successful. But before we get started, if you haven't already, guys, make sure that you go rate and review the podcast. Just open up the Apple Podcast app on your phone really quick, search for the show, Financially Free Journey. And then when you scroll down right underneath the episodes, you'll see where it says rate and review. You can click 5 stars, and then I would love for you to write a review and tell me what topics you like that I've covered or topics that you would like for me to cover in the future. And then that way I can use that information to help curate upcoming episodes to make sure that it's what you guys really want to hear. So without further ado, let's get into this. It's really important to be able to have financial success. But how do we have financial success? There's so many different gurus online and people that you're seeing on social media, and there's a lot of different advice out there. So today I'm going to talk about some of the top things you can do to be more financially successful. And again, these aren't the only things, but these are some really great ways to get yourself started on the right path. So let's start out. Let's go to tip number 1, which is to protect your ability to earn an income. So protecting your income or creating additional sources of income is probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself in order to be more financially successful. We know that income is really critical, but then of course, after what you do with that income is just as, if not more important. But let's focus in on this income piece. Relying on one stream of income is a surefire way to not have financial success. Because what happens if that stream of income dries up? What if you get fired from your job, you get laid off, your industry that you're in is hurt by the economy? There's so many reasons why you do not want to rely on one stream of income. Another reason, of course, is to ensure financial freedom or independence earlier in life. The goal is to move from earned income being 100% of your income stream to passive income being 100% of your income stream to be able to support those monthly bills and necessities that you have to pay for. So ensuring financial success is really critical for you to think about in really increasing other streams of income, and specifically passive streams of income. And not only does an extra income stream really help you pay the bills and eliminate debt, but it's going to really help you get to financial freedom way quicker than you would without them. So consider how you can use the skills that you already have, and then you can put those skills to work to create maybe a freelance job or a profitable side business. Whatever interests you, there are people out there that would pay you for it. So, for example, I have a major interest in finance and financial freedom. And because of the knowledge and experience that I've had, and also that I love helping people about it, I've been able to create additional streams of income around educating and helping people reach financial freedom. So that's just one example of what I've done. But again, this is something you can do with the talents and skills that you have. So if you love to cut hair, if you have been able to find a way to grow a garden, better than anybody else, whatever obscure talent or skill you think it is that you have, there's a way for you to be able to generate another stream of income around it. So I want you to think of that as an action item from this episode, is what can you do? Because even if it's a couple $100s a month, think about what impact that has as it compounds over time. Attention to all of my Nashville, Tennessee area listeners. Commodore Express is actively hiring truck drivers right now in your area. Are you not happy with being a number or a username on the other end of a computer? Or maybe you're tired of just endless hours of sitting around and waiting and wondering when and where you're going next. Do you have maybe a hard time remembering who your family is, or even the last time that you were home? Well, Commodore Express doesn't have those problems because their teams run the West Coast runs weekly, and they typically work on a 5-on, 2-off schedule. Now, their regional solo drivers are with 10 hours of Nashville, and they enjoy sleeping at home several nights a week. Commodore Express also offers a full benefits package and above average pay for the industry. So get a grip on your financial future by securing a job that offers great pay, great benefits, consistent miles, and consistent paychecks. All you need to do is visit them online at www.commodoreexpress.net to learn more about them and to request an online application, or you can actually simply call Robert at 615-287-5140. That's 615-287-5140 and get started today. So tip number 2 is to maintain a healthy cash reserve. So if you have been following this podcast, then you know that I love to talk about making sure that you're set up for emergencies. And that starts with having a great cash reserve. And a lot of people call this their emergency fund. And it's gotta be a top priority. That way, if you're backed into a corner or if you have an emergency arise, financially speaking, that you aren't going to be forced to put that emergency on credit, because this is one of the number one ways to get derailed from financial success and really sidetracked from your ultimate goal, which is, of course, to be able to have a healthy retirement, to go on those vacations, to be able to be financially independent, whatever the situation is. Without a reserve or an emergency fund, you are going to have a really hard time getting there. And having savings is one of the best ways to have financial success because, number one, it protects you from hardship. And, having significant unexpected things like medical expenses or maybe losing your job, as we just talked about, these are things that you can really give yourself a financial cushion for if you have a cash reserve in place. So if you get a raise at work, for example, or you have a really profitable year in your business maybe, and you are tempted to maybe, buy something that you weren't planning on, or now you've got that excess money, so, you guys can take a fancier vacation. The issue is that this is a big trick to building wealth, is to not be able to fall into those temptations and buy and spend, on things that you weren't planning on or don't really support your goals. Managing inventory with spreadsheets just doesn't cut it anymore. You spend too much time doing the manual tasks of tracking down inventory, fixing errors, and just wondering where all of your items are located, all of which slows down the fulfillment process and takes away from focusing on your business and what you love. Now, SKU Vault solves the most difficult challenges in omni-channel and e-commerce fulfillment. They manage and track inventory at scale. Financially Free Journey listeners are actually eligible for free onboarding training through the end of 2021 when you sign up for a free demo with one of the e-commerce experts. Now, SKU Vault helps solve critical needs like all the integrations, first of all, marketplaces and features you need for faster e-commerce fulfillment. It eliminates stockouts and oversells with industry best quality control and reporting. And there's affordable plans for businesses of all sizes, from startups to large enterprises. Now, as someone who has personally built several e-commerce stores from the ground up, I can say that SKU Vault would have saved me a lot of time and stress if I had known about it from the get-go. When I started my first e-commerce store, I didn't realize the amount of time that I would be taking by tracking inventory and barcode scanning and serial numbers and accounting, and how much it would actually monopolize my time. Now, it created major burnout for me, and it took away the passion that I had for my business. SKU Vault will help you focus on your passion and take care of the hard work behind the scenes to help you stay organized and maximize your profits. So make sure that you click on the link in the show notes to go to the SKU Vault dedicated landing page just for our listeners. You're going to be able to schedule your free demo and onboarding in just a matter of minutes. Now, stop trying to do it all and start focusing again on the part of your business that you love with the help of SKU Vault. Now, keeping an emergency fund in something like an FDIC insured bank account, that's completely safe. And no, you won't earn much interest there, but that's really not the goal for a cash reserve. Ideally, you should have at least 3 to probably 6 months worth of living expenses. But, again, depending on your work and your family situation, you might need more or you might need a little less. And if you haven't started building a cash reserve, I know that it can seem really daunting and intimidating, but don't worry. It only takes a few small steps to really get there. Just make a goal to accumulate $100 and then maybe $1,000 as quickly as you can. Give yourself some milestones to be able to celebrate making headway on this goal. Now, tip number 3 is to adopt a long-term mindset. And everyone's definition of financial success is just a little bit different, and that's why there's not a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to defining financial success. But for most people, you are not going to have financial success from receiving an inheritance or winning the lottery. So reaching significant financial achievements, like saving enough to have a comfortable retirement, for example, is really going to result from long-term planning on your part, and it's going to take time and consistency. So if you have small continuous improvements that really compound and snowball over time, then you can achieve just about any desired outcome. So for example, if you want to retire with more than $1 million, you need to invest $300 a month starting in your 20s, or $800 a month starting in your 30s, or $1,200 a month starting in your 40s. Now, the more time you have on your side, obviously the better, because you're going to allow your investments to compound over time. But the less that you must invest to achieve your goals is going to depend on you being younger. So again, today is the best day to be able to start your investing journey and to adopt that long-term mindset. So the sooner that you take this view and this approach, then the easier it's going to be to build a secure future for you to be able to achieve any dream that you have financially. Now, tip number 4 is to really stay focused on your money goals. And if you don't set financial goals, then you're probably going to spend money on things over time that you didn't even realize you were doing. So really take the time to figure out what it is that you want to achieve with your money. What financial or non-financial dreams do you have? Because we know most dreams that we have, you have to have the financial security and wherewithal to be able to achieve those dreams and live those out. So they really are all tied together. And if you're not sure what your financial goals should be, then I strongly recommend a very simple exercise. Just imagine your life 5 years from now. Just take a minute to close your eyes and imagine your life 5 years from now. And really consider, your living conditions and how you spend your time and with who you spend your time. And in 5 years, what would you be proud to say that you had accomplished between now and between that time? So stretch your imagination out further, and I want you to do that same exercise with your life in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And then imagine you're on your deathbed and you have just a few hours left to live. What accomplishments would make you feel good about yourself in your final hours? And these big questions can really help you know about what you genuinely want to achieve in your life and how money is a tool that can really help you achieve those things. Without clear financial goals, it isn't going to be easy to be able to see what sacrifices you need to make in order to achieve those long-term goals in your life. And there's some really great resources that you can tap into, and I'll make sure to link them in the show notes to help you go through this exercise. So tip number 5 is to stop overspending. And this is a really hard one for most people because overspending as a society is almost like a cultural expectation to have some self-care and to spend on things that we want short-term that will support our short-term happiness. But a critical thing to do is, to have financial success is to really live within your means. And if you haven't heard that term on the podcast before, make sure that you go back and listen to previous episodes where I talk about living within your means, because this is a really important concept to have and to understand to be able to achieve financial freedom. And in order to be comfortable later, you're going to need to feel slightly uncomfortable today, meaning that you're not going to be able to give in to every purchase that you want to make anytime you want to make it. What you need to do is to evaluate your priorities very carefully and then give up the unnecessary spending that's really holding you back from achieving more. And a great way to do this is calculating the value of your time. And I love going through this with people because it's usually highly impactful for people to see how much their time is truly worth. And when you're spending money, how much of your time you're exchanging that purchase for. So let's just go through an example. Let's say you earn $60,000 a year and you earn about $30 an hour. And let's say you're walking through the store and you see a pair of shoes or something that you want and it costs $300. You've had to work 10 hours on a pre-tax basis to buy those shoes. So when you think about that, is that pair of shoes worth 10 hours of your life? Because truly, money is a medium. It's a tool that we exchange for energy. And when you think about having to work 10 hours to buy $300 pair of shoes, is that purchase worth it? Sometimes the answer may be yes, but most of the time the answer is no. Okay, you guys, let's take a minute to talk about my new guilty pleasure podcast. It's called Raw Truths, Stories of Female Infidelity. And guys, it's a no judgment podcast. Women share their stories of why they were unfaithful anonymously, and then it's read by the host, Rebecca Adams. Rebecca actually shares her own experience involving infidelity, as well as the emotions and the circumstances that led up to it. And Rebecca encourages listeners to really learn more about why women have chosen to be unfaithful in their marriage or relationships, as well as to hear what women say led them down the road of infidelity. Everyone has their own story and reasons for what they did or are currently doing. And infidelity is such a taboo topic and equally as fascinating. So tune into the Raw Truths podcast to hear real stories from real women. You can tune in anywhere that you listen to your podcast by searching for Raw Truths, Stories of Female Infidelity. Now, tip number 6 is to watch your cash flow. And this really ties back to the last tip, which is to live within your means. But understanding exactly how you earn, spend, and save is vital because it's truly the foundation of your financial life. If you're not sure how much money is coming into your account or going out of your account, you will not be able to manage it. And it's going to get really overwhelming and feel like you're not making any headway on your goals. Now, the best way to watch and manage your cash flow is to really use a lot of the digital apps and tools out there that can really help you with that. There's a lot of places like Mint and Personal Capital, and I'll make sure to link those down in the show notes as well, because those are fantastic tools that have been built to help you track your cash flow and to help you really increase your net worth and support your financial goals. So if you want to track your cash flow the old-fashioned way, you can do something like use an Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets. You can even automate the process by subscribing to something like Tiller, and that's going to connect your financial accounts and it's going to import the transactions. So my 3 recommendations is Tiller, Mint, or Personal Capital. They are fantastic resources and apps that would help you be able to track your cash flow. The next tip is to really use automation to your advantage. And what I mean by this is, in addition to monitoring your cash flow and spending consciously on things that support your financial goals, a key to financial success is really automating your money. So without this, you really risk your financial targets not being able to be achieved because you're making your decisions with emotions more often. So automating is something that you can do to allow you to build safety nets in your emergency fund, your investment accounts, your retirement accounts, and to really pay your bills on time. So for example, if you have your utilities, a car payment, a mortgage, what you want to do is you want to automate those to come out of your account every single month. And that way you don't have to worry about going in and paying them on time or forgetting. And then you're going to separate out your spending account from your bill account, and you're going to automate that. So you know that if you get paid $1,000 from your paycheck, but you need $600 to meet all of your bills and your savings needs, then you're going to be able to transfer $400 into your spending account. This is a great way to automate to make sure that you live within your means, you're watching your cash flow, and you're paying your bills on time, and you're supporting your financial goals along the way. The next tip that I want to share is to manage your debt very carefully. And almost all Americans, without saying it definitively, pretty close, all Americans are in some form of debt. Another key to having more financial success is really reducing what you owe. And having fewer or smaller liabilities can take the pressure off and really help you, stay on site for what it is that you're trying to achieve long-term financially. It can also help you live within your means if you tend to overspend. And even if you don't have extra money to whittle down debt balances faster, you can cut your interest expense just by tackling your debt from the highest to the lowest interest rate. You can also do the snowball method of tackling the smallest account to the largest account depending on the balance. So again, I would consider options about refinancing your debt, doing balance transfers onto 0% credit cards, or even just changing your payment plan to make sure that the debt is more manageable. Now, the next tip is to have the right insurance. And this is something that's overlooked a lot when people are going through and they're planning out their finances. But in addition to protecting your income and having cash in the bank, you need to consider how various investments and insurance products can create more financial success. So let's focus in on insurance products for a second. So for instance, health insurance is essential for maintaining your physical and your financial health. And even if you're young and you're healthy right now, this is still something for you to consider and think about. While having an emergency savings is critical, like we talked about earlier, it's probably, enough to pay for some medical expenses. But if you had a severe injury or an illness, you don't want to drain your emergency savings because you happen to not have the right insurance coverage for your needs. Now, depending on your income and your family size, you may be eligible for government assistance to reduce the cost of health coverage. And you can learn more about that when you go to healthcare.gov. But there's things like disability insurance, and that's often overlooked as well. And it's a great financial product that replaces a portion of your income, up to typically 60 or 70% of your income most times. And this is if you can't work due to things like an accident, an illness, or maybe an injury that makes you unable to work prior to that illness. It gives you the ability to really keep up with your bills and to meet living expenses while you're recovering from that injury or the illness. You also need to remember that health insurance pays a portion of covered medical expenses, but it doesn't cover your living expenses, like your housing, your food, or your debt repayments. Now, if you can't work due to a health problem, this is something that you need to consider and remember when you're building out your financial plan to really support that long-term success. Another part of insurance to make sure that you consider and you look into is life insurance. And this isn't going to be the, end all be all when it comes to insurance options, but life insurance is typically a great way to make sure that if something tragic happens to you and you purchase a life insurance policy, maybe term or whole, depending on your financial situation, that your spouse, your partner, your children, whoever it is that you leave behind, that they depended on you financially, that they're covered and they're taken care of. So if you don't have life insurance currently, I urge you to look into term or whole life and see what options best suit you and your financial needs. Now, the next step that I want to go over is I want you to focus on what you can control. Often we worry about things that are really not in our control, and it makes us feel powerless. And instead of doing that and turning your attention to what you can control can help you build more financial success. So for instance, if you can't prevent having a disability, for example, that's keeping you from working, you can go purchase disability insurance that would mitigate that risk, right? So that's a great way of looking at focusing on the things that you can control and making a great plan within those boundaries. In other words, you can't stop the bad things from happening, right? But you can anticipate problems and you can prepare for them financially. So those were some top tips to help you build financial success. And I hope that gave you great food for thought today while you are on your financially free journey. And again, thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for the reviews, for the 5-star ratings. And as always, if you're not already, make sure that you're following us on Instagram. It's at Financially Free Journey, and also TikTok, Financially Free Journey. I post daily tips and motivation and videos to help you achieve your financial freedom. Until next time. Now, if you love listening to the Financially Free Journey podcast, then you will love our premium subscription edition of the show. You will get early access, ad-free listening, and bonus content that you will not hear on the regular show. So make sure that you hit the subscription button and join the premium fun.